Local media industry veteran Mike Reed, founder of a film and music post-production company which bears his name, has sold his South Melbourne studio for $5.5 million. The younger Mike Reed in his studio in 1999. Photo, Wayne TaylorMike Reed. Instead, the 812 square four-story building with 12 car parks, and within the Fishermans urban Renewal area, is trading to an owner-occupier following a campaign by Dixon Kessel, Simon Regan and Mark Smedley. Serviced, co-work office, leases. Providers of serviced and co-working offices are moving into 3 new Central City buildings. At 456 Lonsdale Street, Clarence Workplaces for Professionals will open its first Melbourne office after leasing the top 3 floors, more than 5,000 square in a deal negotiated by Cushman. Hub Australia will open in the ex-George department store. Photo, supplied in the city's eastern end, at 162 Collins Street. Hub is leasing 3,500 square meters, following a deal negotiated by Seville's Phil Cullity, who declined to comment. Hub Australia, reportedly Australia's largest privately owned co-working operator, has also signed for 2,700 square covering the top 3 stories, of the landmark 1 Nicholson Street office, known nowadays as the Orca building. This 19-level building was Melbourne's first glass-wall skyscraper when developed 60 years ago. In 2016, Manhattan-based startup WeWork rented space at 401 Collins Street, the historic former Bank of Tokyo house. It was recently reported WeWork and 2 other occupiers, Campfire and We, are hunting to rent about 20,000 square of Melbourne CBD office space this year. VIT makes it 3 in Queen Street. The Victorian Institute of Technology has leased its 3rd Melbourne premises, sticking to the city's Queen Street. VIT has rented 1,885 square levels 6 to 10 inclusive, of 235 Queen Street, following a deal negotiated by MP Burke Commercial's Pat Burke. The 30-year-old educator occupies 2 other Melbourne locations, at 123 and 126 Queen Street, and also operates in Sydney. It has committed to its newest space, near both the city's legal and finance precincts, for an initial 5-year term. Mr. Burke said 235 Queen Street has been repositioned over the past 2 years to provide a higher standard of office accommodation to meet strong tenant demand, in particular small to mid-size businesses. Being a prominent corner building, each floor enjoys an abundance of natural light, flexible workspace and great views. The building will perform strongly through the various property cycles. Trio of inner sites fetch $20 million. 3 inner-city development sites sold this week. In South Melbourne, a low-rise office at 8 to 12 Sandilands Street, with residential redevelopment potential, traded for $6.3 million following a campaign by Allard. In inner East Richmond, meanwhile, an industrial one-zoned warehouse at 43 to 57 Blasey Street, marketed for being able to make way or a commercial project, also exchanged for just over $7 million. Colliers International's Ted Dwyer, Ben Baines and Lachlan Dornoff were the marketing agents. 5 kilometers west of town, octogenarian furniture retailer Franco Cozzo, it was reported, has offloaded his prominent Footscray showroom for a speculated $7 million after several years on and off the market. This site was last marketed by Kellerman Commercial's Rudy Kellerman. ANZICS rents across town. There appears to be no rhyme or reason to how not-for-profit groups are approaching their office accommodation decisions this cycle. In a month when 2 organizations purchased offices to occupy, another has sold its premises and is now going to rent. The Australian and New Zealand Intensive Care Society has signed a lease for 238 square at 277 Camberwell Road, Camberwell, 10 kilometers east of the CBD, a deal negotiated by JLL's Chris Wansley and Tim Sugar. The Camberwell agreement comes 3 months after the group sold its outgoing headquarters, in Inner North Levers Terrace, Carlton. A few years ago, the Smith family offloaded its Collingwood headquarters for $8.8 million after also opting to become a tenant. In April, the Law Institute of Victoria banked $35.1 million selling 470 Burke Street with a leaseback. It paid $1.5 million for this asset in the 1970s. The Leo Cusson Centre for Law HQ, fresh from banking $33 million offloading 360 Little Collins Street, an asset it held for 30 years, is also a tenant now, at 535 Burke Street. Preferring to own as AVI, which banked more than $15 million since 2016 selling two Fitzroy buildings it owner-occupied, but last week paid just over $5 million for a replacement HQ, in the same suburb. MS Limited has also just invested in a high-quality Box Hill office to replace a smaller Blackburn site. Colliers International's City Sales Department Director, Matthew Stagg, said not-for-profit groups sometimes decide to sell buildings which are at the end of their economic life and are no longer fit to accommodate modern commercial requirements, and where it is expensive to maintain plant and equipment. Meanwhile, underlying land values have increased dramatically over the past 5 years due to the development boom in the CBD and city fringe. Mr. Stagg said, pointing out the downside of rising property values has been increasing land tax and council rates. Email markalisco@gmail.com.